Wickersoft is excited to introduce OnePlan for Microsoft Project Online. Built into Project Online, OnePlan enhances and extends the capabilities for resource scheduling and capacity planning across the enterprise. So what's new about OnePlan for Project Online? Well, first there's drag and drop visual scheduling. Gain insight into your project team's availability and dynamically manage resource schedules for your project with the ease of drag and drop. Match individual resources to the project's requirements by finding team members according to their roles, skills, and availability. And then there's Decision Insights, where you can proactively solve scheduling conflicts with a dynamic timeline that visualizes the resource schedule for your entire organization. You can balance skills and availability with a centralized view to identify who has availability and who is overbooked. You can also add, edit, move, and delete assignments in just seconds. And then there's a visual personal dashboard and statusing capability that gives team members the information they need to make autonomous decisions that keep the project moving forward. Gain transparency and confidence with visibility into their individual assignments, and enhance team collaboration by giving them simple status updates directly from their email client. And then there's robust portfolio analysis because it's fully integrated with Project Online. You can easily leverage OnePlan resource information to model different portfolio scenarios to determine the best strategic path. By weighing project proposals against strategic business drivers, you can consider both the cost and resource constraints. And there's visual reporting and analytics to help you make the right decisions with access to real-time reporting data. Visually monitor utilization of your team to help with capacity planning, and slice and dice the data to personalize your view. With this, you can monitor and improve your team's efficiency and compliance. So with that, let's take a look at some of the capabilities. Here we are in Project Online, and here we are looking at its Project Center, which is the central portfolio for the projects that are being managed. Now in it, we can actually select a particular project like the social networking integration project and drill into its specific details. By doing so, it takes us to a set of project detail pages, of which one of them is a resource scheduler, which is basically OnePlan's resource scheduling capability. And in it, we're looking at a resource plan for this specific social networking integration project. Notice that we're zoomed in to a monthly increment, so we can plan by month, but we could also go down to daily or weekly if we like to and want to do a different, more incremental or granular planning increment. Notice all the while it's showing us summary information about our resource planning. And it's giving us an information list about all the different projects, both generic and named individuals that have been allocated to the specific project. Now this is fully integrated with Microsoft Project Online's resource pool, meaning that we're just basically providing you a more graphical way to leverage and interact with those resources in Project Online. Now, if I expand the business analyst, notice that I have a couple of resource engagements here, which are high-level resource allocations for things that they're going to do. So, for example, gathering business requirements over this particular time period at 40% allocation. I can hover over this particular engagement and get the details around that, or I can click into it to actually edit the information or specifics around that at any time I want, or I can graphically drag it around. The idea here is I have information graphically that I can use and look at how that impacts the overall allocation across this specific project. Now with that, I could also add a new engagement by actually going in and graphically going into any part of the timeline and basically dragging an engagement bar and then putting the information in for this particular business analyst. So for example, if I wanted to refine requirements, and here's the dates that it picked up from where I dragged it along the timeline, and I can give it an allocation of say 25%. And with that, it'll actually calculate the total hours and hours per day. And as I save that, it can go in and actually show that I have a new engagement here generically, which tells the resource manager that there's an individual that needs to be given this particular piece of work, which could be Grace or Patrick or anyone else within this. Now, that being said, you can graphically drag and drop from one resource to the other, or I can add new resources in here as I see fit. For example, if I wanted to add a new resource into here, I could say, let me add a tester into the mix, and it will go find the tester in the central resource pool. And I can say I want to use this tester for UAT, or user acceptance testing. And with that, I could say, oh, I don't know, 50% of their time. And with that, it would take that and actually add the tester without having to do the full build team process that you go through in Project Online, and actually allow you to take this allocation and put it wherever you think makes the most sense within that timeline. Now with that, you have a combination of these things, and you're looking at it within the context of this just one project and the resource loads within that. But at any given point in time, you can actually toggle off and back and forth between showing just this project or showing it across all project work to see whether in aggregate my resources are being overtaxed. Also, instead of just having this project-centric or single project view, you can go to the resource pool, and OnePlan also adds a scheduler into that mix as well. If we come in, I'm looking at a resource scheduler here in a more global context where I'm looking at all resources across, and I'm looking at all of the capabilities or all of the engagements that they have across all of the different projects. I can filter this down once again timeline by month, week, or day. I can also group them, or more importantly, I could filter these by different roles. So for example, I could come in and say, let me just look at the business analyst within the mix here. And as I focus down on that, I could say expand out Adam Noshimuri and notice that he does have a conflict and an overallocation here. I can also notice that Patrick Sands, another business analyst, really doesn't have any work within this time frame. So I could actually come in here and take this build reports, which is creating an overallocation, and drag that and reassign that to Patrick down here in the mix. By doing so, I have Patrick being able to do that, give him some utilization, and offload that problem from Adam Noshimuri. The idea here is that I have in-process work color-coded in blue, I have not yet started work in gray that can also serve as requests, and I'll have a different color coding in green for work that has been completed. Now, as we go on through here, we can also actually click on any particular engagement, and we can actually request status. And this is one of those collaborative features where you can actually then send this notification to the actual person who's been allocated that work and request via email that status and update on that. And once it's sent, they'll get something in their email inbox that will allow them to provide status and feed that back into the resource scheduling process. Now with that, all of this syncs back to Project Online, meaning we could actually leverage this resource capacity information in Project Online's native portfolio analysis capabilities. So for those of you that are familiar, you can actually come in here and you can actually, according to the priorities that you've established with the business drivers, determine within the resource constraints that you have within this mix of projects that you're trying to accomplish to see whether or not we can do that. And this portfolio analysis actually tells us here that given the resources we have, if I hire no additional resources, that I can really only get 70% of the value of the proposed portfolio given the resource mix I currently have. And that's based upon the requirement details that were driven by the data that was put in by OnePlan at a resource capacity planning level. If I look at the requirements details, what you'll see here is it's aggregating all that resource planning information for this scenario and telling me in where which roles are over and under allocated, what roles and to what degree they're assigned on each specific project. And as we go through and look at this from a Gantt chart perspective, that's what's driving its determination that we really can't do all the projects given the resource mix we have within the way these projects are planned in these timeframes. Now, what if we want to say, what if we said we could hire 3 additional resources and we calculated that? See if we can get more done in this project mix through this scenario given this hypothetical. It does say that we can get now almost 77% of our projects done, and we get to move 2 projects in here that we didn't have in there before. And it also will tell us what resources we need. So if I look at what's called a hired resources report, it will tell me what those 3 resources would need to be. So it will tell us what I need to contract or hire in order to get that done. And it seems like my biggest deficit is in the developer ranks because I need 1 developer on this project and I need 2 developers on this project to make that happen to this degree. And the idea is we can keep running these scenarios based upon the OnePlan capacity planning data that was entered easily and graphically into the system. Also, there's the reporting side of things. So as we go into the reports within Project Online, we'll notice that we have some project resource status reports. And this is being generated live from real data that's being entered into Project Online. Notice here that the aggregate of all that can be seen graphically and can be sliced and filtered. Notice across the board, I can see which resources are overallocated, and it does show here that Grace is indeed overutilized. I have a dashboard looking at capacity versus demand. I can filter these things down by position and role like we did before, or I can get to more granular resource utilization information like we want to get to sometimes, and look at capacity versus availability, and look at where we have deficits through a heat map type of capability. Or maybe even at a high level, I just want to look at availability and see where I have stress on my demand for different particular roles within the organization. So all in all, OnePlan really provides resource scheduling capabilities in a more graphical fashion that makes it easier to visualize and easier to manipulate the data that is leveraged by Project Online, and synchronizes it with its resource pool and its resource engagements capability so that we can leverage it for portfolio analysis and just overall management of our resource capacity over the life cycle of our project management and portfolio management process. Hopefully you've seen enough here today to want you to contact Wickersoft for more information. If you'd like to see a more detailed demonstration, please contact us. Hope you're having a great day.